Watch this. I changed the world. I didn't mean to, but I did. And when you do something that big, you make friends and you make enemies. And that's okay. I go to bed every night knowing that what I've done has always been for the right purpose, for the right reason. I'm Russ Kendzior, and I'm the guy that kind of invented or developed the slip and fall prevention industry.
Russell Kenzior is an expert witness. He also runs a nonprofit called the National Floor Safety Institute, and he's based in Texas.
This is something I put my entire background and experience in, and maybe more importantly, my family's wealth. I don't know how many lives I've saved, but there's got to be a lot of them. There's got to be a lot of people today who haven't fallen or died or just been injured because they walked on a floor that was protected.
This is a story on the micro scale about friction. That's the friction between the bottom of your foot and a floor or a walkway surface. But on the macro level, it's also about the contention or the debate about how you measure that friction. There are many players with vested interest in this, and there are competing ways to measure the friction of a floor.
Manufacturers of floors don't want liability. No offense, but if your mother falls, or your grandmother falls, or somebody comes into your store and falls and gets hurt, they don't really care. I'm just being honest. The manufacturers of floors could care less. They just don't want to get sued.
There are no national standards for measuring the coefficient of friction for walkway surfaces, which is the technical way of saying how slippery a floor is.
Private industry, really, in every aspect of industry, whatever manufactured product, they're perfectly capable of coming up with safety standards.
In reporting this story, I certainly came away with the impression that Russell Kenzior sees this as a crusader standing up to big floor. Falling is something of an epidemic in the United States. It's one of the leading causes of preventable injuries and costs tens of billions of dollars annually. Flooring rhymes with boring, and I think that most people don't care about it, but at the same time, it's right under our feet every day.
Everybody likes a shiny floor. The floor maintenance industry has invested billions and billions of dollars over decades through marketing efforts to get us to understand that shiny means good.
When you start to walk, you're basically creating a series of micro slips. If that micro slip turns into a macro slip and you keep slipping, you're not able to use postural control to then do the next step and the next step. If you keep slipping, you're going to fall. The slip becomes a slide and the slide becomes a fall.
Baby boomers, I'm one of them, retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. And what's the leading cause of injury for the baby boomers? Slips, trips, and falls.
Slip, trip, and falls are the source of a lot of litigation. They're also often seen as the source of frivolous litigation. Traditionally, retailers haven't taken this seriously because composite vinyl tiles are very cheap and they cover acres of flooring in the United States and it would be very expensive to fix.
Companies are paying tens of billions of dollars in claims, litigation. It's just a common problem. And so you do the math and say, well, how many people are going into a Walmart or a Costco? Pick a large retail store. The cost of fixing the problem to many of these companies is far more expensive than the cost of paying claims.
Russell Kenzior got his start as one of 5 children outside of Chicago, graduated college, and became a floor salesman in the Dallas area. As part of that job, he started hearing from customers that people were falling and getting hurt on the floors. And he would call the company and say, what should I tell these people? And according to Russ, the company basically told him, we can't help you, you should just tell them to call our lawyers. And he thought that was really odd, so he eventually quit. After running a floor cleaning business for a while, he got a call from a lawyer who asked him about testifying as an expert witness, so he started working as a consultant.
I'm not an advocate for plaintiffs' attorneys or defense attorneys. I'm a safety guy. Floor safety begins with the floor. And prior to the National Floor Safety Institute publishing standards, the flooring industry really didn't have any standards for slip resistance.
Russell Kenzior is a very persuasive person. Because he's so persuasive, I think he's made a lot of enemies.
Mr. Kenzior, earns his living as a forensic consultant. So that was a little bit of a problem for us. Forensic consultants aren't absolutely looking for a standard. They're looking for a unique solution that they can sell. My name is Peter Ermish. I'm the president of Walkway Management Group. That is a new company founded 3 years ago, committed to helping to solve the problem of slip and fall injuries in our society. We became deeply involved in creating international standards that would solve the mystery of slips and falls and make it really a black and white issue that would allow people at every level to monitor the safety of their floors and solve the hazard problem if they detected one.
Triboluminescence is a phenomena that describes the spark of light that's created by friction. A tribometer is an instrument that's used to measure friction. These tend to look like car battery type boxes. Others are sort of sleds that you drag across the floor. Some of the tribometers in Europe are actually inclined slopes. There's also some that kind of resemble like feet. There are a lot of different tools for measuring friction, and not all of them come up with the same reading. Some organizations, including Russell Kensior's organization, have put forward standards for measuring the friction of floors. But there's also sort of no standard for developing standards. And in the United States, the development of standards is overseen by an organization called ANSI. American National Standards Institute. Everybody calls it ANSI. The lack of a federal standard, the lack of a uniform way of going about getting a standard has created this sort of vacuum. And in that vacuum, people see an opportunity to come in and serve as experts. The ceramic tile industry in the United States put forth a standard with ANSI. At present, Peter Ermish's Walkway Management Group offers the only tests to certify people to that industry standard. And so the criticism is that really they are testing to industry standard, not necessarily to the standard that would prevent the most amount of injuries.
So if you go down the list of laminate floors, luxury vinyl floors, all types of hard surface floors, wood floors, all hard surface floors today really have no standards. Even though we've been publishing ours for decades, they will not voluntarily adopt them. In fact, the only industry that does have a standard is the ceramic tile industry, the Tile Council of North America. It's a trade association. The TCNA is corporate America on steroids. I mean, it's the largest manufacturers in the world who manufacture ceramic tile, who banded together to create a trade association, who now writes standards for themselves.
So it's not my standard or our standard. They adopted the standard that's used in Europe. It's the European Union standard recognized by 27 countries. So it's not my standard. Our role in that was that we were aware of the research in Europe and we introduced the Tile Council leadership to that research. It's called ANSI A326.3. And it defines the test methodology to determine whether a floor is slippery. And it also gave us a threshold. So you take a digital numerical measurement and you can either pass or fail. I can tell you, since this methodology has been commonly used, we're not aware of a single slip claim that went to trial or even made it past discovery. And the reason for that is it's so thorough and the report is so compelling and convincing that the opposing attorney says, I don't think we can win this case. Basically, we are present in every major city in the country. If you have a problem or you think you have a problem, you can call one of our affiliates and they can measure the problem and they can remove the problem and they can train your staff how to keep the floor safe. The cleaning process should be part of the solution, but often if you use the wrong cleaner, you're actually turning a safe floor into a slippery floor. So we have to educate the public. We're talking about solving a problem for $60.
Since Peter Ermish started Walkway Management Group, they said they've opened 48 franchises.
Thank you, Acting Commissioner Burkle, and
fellow commissioners, for the opportunity to speak to you today.
As part of Russell Kensior's advocacy, he has put forward 2 petitions before the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which is the federal agency that oversees products and attempts to prevent injuries. His most recent petition was in 2020, last year.
We petitioned them twice, asking that they mandate manufacturers of floor coverings test and label their products, twice, and lost by a single vote both times. And that was with insurmountable pressure from all the manufacturers of floor coverings.
There was a period where people could comment, and I think the comments are sort of revealing in who sides with Russ, people like consumer advocacy groups, and who opposed him. There were other people that sell tribometers that also felt like the petition was self-interested.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard, of course we have a lot of people slipping and falling. Russ, that's why we have insurance. Now you go to the insurance industry, they don't want to hear that. They're paying the claims. But as long as corporate America says, well, we're just passing the cost along to the insurance company, and when our premiums go up, we just pass that cost along to you, the consumer.
Some of the things that Russell Kendzior says are not easy to check, but one of the things he said when I first called him was that, Peter, when you start calling around asking people for comment, they're gonna just say, no thank you, goodbye. That was one of the things that did in fact check out.
If you were to contact any casino, any grocery store, any large retail store, any hospital, and say, I'm doing a story about slips and falls, I'd like to get you behind the camera and talk about it, you won't get a return call. They don't want to talk about it. But why not? I mean, it's a big problem. And the reason they don't want to talk about it is because if they talk about it, that means they know it's a problem.
Walmart did not respond to comment. Costco spokesperson said they had no comment. I contacted CNA, which is one of the leading insurers of retailers. They initially agreed to take my questions, but then said they had no comment.
What is the definition of an accident? If you would say, well, we had an accident on aisle 3, a lady slipped and fell in some water. Well, first of all, that's not an accident, that's an incident. Because accidents are non-predictable and not preventable. From the minute we took our first steps, we all have personal experience falling, slipping and falling. And as we age, that comes back to haunt us. Elderly people are just deathly afraid of slipping and falling. They all know somebody that's in a nursing home or died, had a hip replacement. They lost their life. They lost the quality of life because of a slip and fall. So they are reluctant to leave the house. They don't want to go out because they're afraid they might slip and fall. What we want to do is let these people, let the elderly Americans live their life, live a full life, go out. But that takes commitment. That takes industry commitment. Manufacturers of floors have to buy into that message. They don't.